By far the most important thing in language learning is the development of Lexis, developing as large a range of words, phrases and collocations as possible. Some Lexis will be known better than others, of course. When we're learning another language, we know some words and phrases very well indeed, and we know others only partly. For instance, we sometimes see or hear a word that's familiar, but we struggle to remember what it means. However, the more Lexis we know, and the better we know it, the more we can potentially say, and clearly, the more we are able to understand when we read or listen. So as teachers, we have the responsibility, amongst other things, of doing everything we can to help our learners to learn and to remember Lexis. Most coursebook material has vocabulary development in it, and indeed more modern course materials tend to give far more prominence to Lexis than in the past, and that's a good thing. However, course material is necessarily limited in how far it can go and how much it can teach, for reasons of space, if nothing else. But we teachers can, and I think we should, be looking for all kinds of opportunities to bring more Lexis to our learners' attention. And one not too difficult way of doing this is along the lines of the following, an activity that I've done with many groups of teenagers at fairly elementary levels. Now, here's a lexical set. It's the set of adjectives for feelings, which is commonly taught at elementary levels. The words are quite useful, since learners can use them to talk about themselves and to talk about the way they feel. Now, when we've done with them whatever the book suggests, including perhaps some fill-in exercises, then towards the end of the lesson, or perhaps even in the following lesson, I write the words up on the board like this, leaving space on the right-hand side. And then I ask students to answer this question. What do people do when they feel happy? And in this way, I can elicit words like smile or laugh, which I then write up beside the word happy. Now, the learners, of course, probably don't know the English words smile or laugh yet. So what do? They either mime them or they use their first language. But either way, the students offer the ideas and the teacher writes up the words in English. And then, at a good pace, because the activity mustn't be too slow or drawn out, we can do the same for the other feelings adjectives that are on the board. Whatever the learners offer that makes sense, give them the word or phrase in English. And here are some more examples. If they get a bit stuck for ideas, of course, you can help them out a bit as well. But what really happens is that the learners themselves are suggesting things and you're giving them the words in English. So the vocabulary is at least partly theirs. And if you like, you can get them to do mind maps of the words on the board. When you've finished, just rub the board clean and mime one or two of the expressions. See if the learners can remember some, at least partly. And that's the activity. Then you can move on to something else. Now, teachers often raise objections to this activity, two objections in particular. First of all, some teachers say, many of these words or phrases are above my students' level. But what does that mean? Whose level are we talking about? We need to remember, I think, that level is much more a teacher concept than it is a learner concept. As far as lexical items are concerned, the criteria for learners concerning Lexis are much more likely to be things like relevance, for example, the word nails for girls or for women, or a phrase like support a team for boys. Or perhaps frequency, perhaps memorability or impact, though these ideas are even harder to measure or to pin down. It's not really very easy sometimes to say which lexical items in English are elementary, which are intermediate, which are advanced. These things are not clear-cut, and importantly, in my experience, learners and students, they don't have this concept in their heads. One might also argue that a word like bite, that refers to a concrete action, or nails, which refer to something we all have, that these words are less abstract than excited or angry, and therefore perhaps easier to learn. Anyway, level is a rather vague idea. The second objection is this: my students won't remember all these words. And of course they probably won't remember them all, and they won't remember them completely. But does that really matter? Let's think about it. First of all, if there's a test, we'll only test the words on the left anyway. That's what's in the syllabus, and that's what's in the course book. And yes, lots of learners won't remember each of these words on the right, and they probably won't remember all of the words on the left either. But any lexical item, a word, a phrase, an expression, whatever, takes time to learn. And if we never meet phrases like bite your nails, then by definition we'll never learn them. But if we introduce them, then our learners have met the words bite and nails, and the next time they see these words, there's a chance that some of them won't raise their hands and ask, "Teacher, what does nails mean?" It's only by meeting words, getting involved with them, trying to see how words relate to each other and to the world that we know, that we learn, improve, make progress, understand more, and start to be able to express more. Well, not only, of course, since we also need to develop gradually greater control of grammar and pronunciation too. But let's not forget that grammar and pronunciation act upon Lexis and not the other way round. So it's lexical development that is the foundation, I think, for all language learning.